The case of Anya Petrova, the 18-year-old violinist who had simply stopped remembering, was the white whale of St. Magdalen's neurology department. For 7 months she resided in the serene, muted, toned private suite on the 10th floor, a living monument to medical frustration. 50 specialists, neurologists from Zurich, memory savants from Boston, psychiatrists with alphabets after their names had pilgrimaged to her bedside. They scanned her brain in kaleidoscopic colors, mapped her neural pathways, and whispered theories about fugue states and rare, hippocampal degradation, just like everyone else, who kept the building running while she collected the credit. Before we continue this incredible story, if you believe in the power of kindness and love stories that remind us what really matters, please subscribe to Kindness True Stories. Hit that like button and drop a comment telling us about a time when someone's kindness changed your perspective. Your support helps us share more stories that warm the heart and inspire the soul. They injected experimental compounds and played complex symphonies meant to trigger episodic recall. Anya would smile, polite and empty, a beautiful vase with nothing inside. She remembered how to breathe, how to swallow, how to form sentences, but she did not remember her own name, her mother's face, or the feel of violin strings under her chin. Her memory wasn't impaired. It was absent, a pristine, terrifying blank slate. The collective conclusion, written in increasingly despondent charts, was a tragic and immutable psychosomatic block, a fortress the mind had built and then lost the key to. The hospital director, Dr. Alden, had begun speaking of long-term care facilities. The hope had evaporated. This was the immutable truth everyone accepted when Leo Carter pushed his cleaning cart into her room at exactly 7:15 p.m. Leo was a satellite in the hospital's ecosystem, orbiting in the quiet spaces between shifts, a single dad in his late 30s. His life was a meticulously calibrated routine of bus routes, school pickups for his daughter Chloe, and the quiet, methodical work of wiping, mopping and polishing. His world smelled of antiseptic and lemon bleach, a sharp contrast to the sterile, odorless anxiety of the treatment floors. He knew of Anya, the miracle girl, who never got her miracle. He'd nod respectfully to the parade of important men and women in white coats, their faces etched with intellectual frustration. To them, Anya was the ultimate complex puzzle. To Leo, she was just a sad kid in a too-big room. He cleaned around her, always soft, always murmuring a "pardon me" or "evening, miss." She never responded, just stared at the shifting light on the wall. Their only interaction was the clearing of her untouched dinner tray. One Thursday evening, as a late-setting sun bled orange through the blinds, Leo was polishing the windowsill. Anya was, as usual, sitting upright in bed, her gaze vacant. The room was silent except for the squeak of his cloth. Then from the small radio clipped to Leo's cart, a faint, tinny melody crackled to life. The local classical station was playing Tchaikovsky's Violin Concerto in D major. It was just the opening bars, a soaring, desperate plea from the strings. Leo, lost in his work, didn't notice the change at first, but then he saw it. A single silent tear traced a path down Anya's cheek. Then another. No sob, no change in breathing, just this quiet, relentless leak from a well everyone thought was dry. Leo froze, the cloth still in his hand. He looked from the tear-streaked face to the small radio, and a connection, absurd and profound, snapped into place in his practical, unmedical mind. The doctors had played her finished, perfect symphonies. What if the lock wasn't in the listening, but in the doing? The next evening, Leo didn't come just to clean. Tucked under his arm, wrapped in an old blanket, was Chloe's first violin, a half-sized, scuffed thing she'd outgrown. He finished his cleaning swiftly. As he was about to leave, he stopped by Anya's bed. He didn't speak to her about memory or therapy. He simply placed the small violin and its bow on her blanketed lap. "My daughter's," he said, his voice rough from disuse. "She says it's got a friendly sound. Might be lonely for someone to play it." He then turned and left, his heart hammering against his ribs. He expected the instrument to be found on the floor later. For 2 days it lay there untouched. On the third evening, as Leo emptied her trash bin, he saw her. Enya's fingers, slender and pale, were resting on the violin's neck, not gripping, just touching, as if reading Braille. Her other hand held the bow loosely. Leo held his breath. He didn't move. Slowly, achingly slowly, she brought the violin under her chin, the movement awkward yet hauntingly familiar. She placed the bow on the strings. And then she made a sound. Not music. It was a horrific screeching groan, the sound of metal tearing, a sound that would make any musician wince. But to Leo, it was the most beautiful sound in the world. It was a sound she was making. He came back the next night, and the next. He never instructed. He just cleaned, and he listened to the awful scraping wails. After a week, the wails fragmented into disjointed, repetitive notes, 2 notes, over and over. A week later, it was a stumbling, broken scale. Leo, acting on a pure paternal instinct, started to hum. He hummed the simplest tune he knew, the melody to Twinkle, Twinkle Little Star, the song he sang to Chloe every night. He hummed it while wiping the sink. He hummed it while mopping under her bed. One evening, as he hummed, the screeching stopped. He looked up. Anya was staring at him, her brow furrowed in a look of intense, painful concentration. She lifted her bow, and like a ghost echoing through a thick fog, 3 of the correct notes for Twinkle, Twinkle scratched out into the room. It was Leo's turn to have tears in his eyes. This became their secret silent therapy. Leo, the janitor, became the consistent, unthreatening presence the 50 brilliant, shifting doctors never could be. He wasn't a figure of authority. He was the man who took her trash and sometimes hummed. He brought in a children's songbook one day, left it open on her bedside table. He started cleaning in rhythm to her hesitant notes, a living, breathing metronome. The breakthrough, the moment that shattered the fortress, happened a month after the first tear. Anya was struggling with a simple folk tune, her fingers clumsy. In a moment of frustration, she made a particularly sour note. And from Leo, who was untangling a knot of wires behind the IV pole, came an automatic, affectionate chuckle, the exact same sound he made when Chloe fumbled a piano piece. It was a dad sound, warm, forgiving, encouraging. At that sound, Anya's bow hand froze. Her head snapped towards him. Her eyes, for the first time in 8 months, were not vacant. They were wide, swimming with a storm of confusion and a dawning, terrifying recognition. Her lips trembled. Papa! The word was a dry rustle, less than a whisper. But it was a word. A personal, memory-laden word. Leo stood up slowly, his own breath caught. He didn't correct her. He just gave her the gentlest, kindest smile he possessed and said, "It's just Leo, sweetheart, but you're doing great." That was almost it. He pointed to the songbook. "Try the C again. Thumb finger." She didn't look away from him. A lifetime seemed to pass in her eyes, and then the storm cleared, not into the old blankness, but into a profound, weary sadness. She looked down at the violin, then back at him. My father. He played cello. He would laugh when I made that sound. The dam didn't break in a flood. It trickled, then flowed. She remembered the laugh. Then she remembered the song was Russian, not from the book. She remembered her father's hands. The memories came back not as a tidal wave, but piece by piece, each musical fragment acting as a key for a specific lock. Leo immediately and quietly reported the word Papa to Nurse Fiona, the only staff member who was ever kind to him. Fiona, skeptical but not foolish, watched from the doorway the next night. She saw the interaction, saw the focus in Anya's eyes, and heard the shaky but deliberate melody of a Russian lullaby she played from a place beyond the songbook. The hospital hierarchy was thrown into polite, bewildered chaos. Dr. Alden was summoned. They reviewed security footage, seeing only a janitor cleaning and a girl practicing violin. They interviewed Leo, who simply said, "She just needed something to do with her hands, sir, and a bit of steady company, I reckon." It made no scientific sense to them. They called it unconscious music therapy facilitated by a non-threatening environmental constant, writing papers about it. But the nurses on the 10th floor, and eventually Anya's weeping mother, knew the truth. The 50 doctors had treated her brain. The single dad janitor, without even trying, had treated her heart. He had provided the two things his own life had taught him were fundamental: a simple, repetitive task to focus on, and the steady, quiet, unconditional presence of a father. He didn't cure her with medicine, he anchored her with kindness. The day Anya was discharged, she walked past the gallery of her famous doctors with a polite nod. But she stopped in front of Leo, who was refilling a soap dispenser. She held out Chloe's violin to him. Then in a clear voice she said, "Thank you, Leo." And for the first time she remembered how to smile. The story leaked out, of course. It became a local legend. Then a national news snippet, medical marvel. Janitor's simple trick unlocks amnesia girl's memory. The hospital gave Leo a commendation and a modest bonus, which he used to buy Chloe a better violin. He still pushes his cart through the silent halls of St. Magdalene's. The doctors still don't fully understand what happened in that room. But Leo does. He knows that sometimes the most complex locks aren't opened by the biggest keys, but by the one that fits just right. The one you find not in a textbook, but in the quiet rhythm of a father's love. If this story of quiet, unexpected kindness resonated with you, if you believe that miracles often wear the simplest uniforms, then do something kind today. Share this story. Let it be a reminder that hope can be found in the most ordinary places. For more true tales that highlight the incredible power of human compassion, subscribe to Kindness True Stories. Your support helps us find and share these lights in the darkness. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because every act of kindness has a story waiting to be told.